best way to learn skate is go skate with your friends.
Yeah,
Buy a skateboard or get a skateboard. Go skate with your friends. I don't knock it. Like, people can do it. Like, I have no, and this is not me calling out anyone for doing it.
I get you though. I do.
But like, if you want to learn skateboard, go and do it with your friends.
Yeah,
Pick up a skateboard. If you saw that thing and that thing interested you and you were like, yeah, that thing looks cool. Like, I want to do that. You got to go and put in the hard work.
And we are recording. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 7th episode of Skatribution. We recently hit 1 year on the 1st of November. That was an exciting one, you know. We're not really where we expected to be, you know, but we just keep on pushing for the grind, you know. Hopefully we achieve what we want to achieve later on in the journey, but it's going to be an exciting one. It's really a passion project, so yeah, I know it's going to go well. We are with Mr. Warren, the landlord of the 1401 Skatepark.
That's a nice term.
It's
like I want real estate.
Yeah.
Real estate. Thanks,
yeah,
man.
you own the land. Yeah, just introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what you do.
So my name is Warren Gwilt. Like you said, landlord of 1401. I'd say landlord, but I think like it's more of a community thing. So
yeah,
we all have a vested interest, very much like how you have a vested interest in this work. You know, it's the same thing with 1401. You know, we've got a vested interest in that doing well. So yeah, so that's me in a nutshell. I've been skating there since I was a little kid. Probably been going to Germiston Bowl since about 97.
Yeah.
You know, so it's been a long time.
Tell me, like, how was it, like, growing up there? Like, yeah.
Growing up was rad, and I think that was like the sort of, you know,
especially that time.
You know, that I think it was a weird time. It was a weird time skating there because as a kid, I didn't really have any prior knowledge of skateboarding. I just knew that, you know, I'd seen this thing and I enjoyed it and I wanted to do it. But I think, you know, like skateboarding at that time, specifically just where skateboarding globally was, but specifically here, you know, in the 80s, South Africa was in a weird place. We were isolated from the rest of the world for obvious reasons, and justifiable reasons. And, you know, a lot of the guys who were skating back then were ramp skaters. They were bowl skaters and vert skaters. And in the sort of mid-90s, street skating sort of was taking off, and that was where skating was heading. So getting into bowl skating or going and skating bowl was not very popular at the time.
Yeah.
You know, you had guys with, like, tiny little wheels, so skating like transition with tiny little wheels that are like the size of skins for bearings was weird. So yeah, it was interesting, and I think also skateboarding at that point, like late 90s here, it was one of its dead spots.
You think so?
Skating wasn't very big in the sort of mid to like late 90s, or it wasn't as popular. It goes through these booms. You know, early 2000s, it then really picked up and got really huge again. And I think we're at a point
so
now.
when you say again, when was it popping before that?
So like before that, it was probably like late 80s, early 90s when skating was a big thing. But then it kind of, when I skated, it was obviously, again, you know, you're like 10 years old, so you don't really have a mind or like an understanding of what was there before. But just, it wasn't as popular. Skateboarding was very much an outsider thing. It wasn't where it is today. It wasn't cool. It wasn't, you know, trendy or fashionable. The people who skated because they literally liked skateboarding, and it was an outlet for them. And then obviously as sort of things evolved, early 2000s skateboarding really blew up. I mean, you had a lot more shops then. Yeah. You had a lot more access to product, and you know, a lot of the guys who you see in the scene today, like very notable people, that was their peak. That was when they were coming up and really making a name for themselves. Me, I've never really been that great at skating. I just enjoy skating. Yeah. So I've always kind of just been under the radar, but sort of watching it as time's gone by. You know, like a lot of my contemporaries were like William Twala, and a lot of unsung heroes of Germiston Lake. Yeah. Will's a mate of mine was myself, Kyle and William. We just, the three of us, would mission around. We had an old VHS camera that we'd like make videos of ourselves skating, and like, so yeah, skating was very different back then. There's a lot of things that were really cool about skating back then that don't happen today, and vice versa. There's a lot of stuff now that's really cool with skating that maybe would have been cool if you'd had it back then. I think the one thing that I can say about seeing kids skating today is it's a lot more friendly and it's a lot more accessible. You feel a lot more welcome skating. There's not a lot of gatekeeping as such with kids skating today, which there was when I was growing up. You know? I don't know. Like I find like when you pitch up to a park and you see a kid skating, if a kid's not great at skating, everyone's still encouraging that kid to try and do stuff.
Most definitely.
Whereas,
well, I don't think it's like gatekeeping. It's not per se in the sense of growing the sport. Rather than I'm thinking of the gatekeeping like corporate side. Or
no. Look, but that's always been a thing. Yeah. That's always been there, and that's never going to really change. Like, I don't think that that's ever going to be. And I think with the way the world works today, where you've got like instant things like Instagram and stuff like that, and there's so many kids like I can make a reel today, and it's deemed my sponsor me video, and you like want. You know, you're putting it in, you're tagging everyone, and it's
but
like,
it's not like a proper
company, but it's like, okay, but like that's not really like you maybe had a good session and it was worth, you know, like I've had those where I've had like really good sessions where I filmed it and I'm like, damn, that was like a really like I was killing it, and then there's other days where I'm like, no, back to default setting where I'm actually kind of shit, you know. So that doesn't justify me being like needing to be sponsored or anything, you know? So like I think that's one of those things, you know. I think gatekeeping in that sense is there still. And I think there's, like I say, maybe to an extent, like skateboarding is more together now, but it's also a bit more fractured.
Yeah.
Because you've got a lot of little cliques and a lot of like communities where it's cool on the one hand that you've got people doing things for themselves in their communities, but then you've got a very territorial almost mindset to things. Like, this is mine. Like, you don't come here and like come to our place and like try and whatever. Whereas at the lake, and I see that from my own experience when we were kids, that's very much how it was there. You get there, it was like, this is a locals only spot, and if you don't
if you're not a local,
if you're not a local out. And if you're not killing it, then you're not really welcome. Whereas today, like the bunch of kids that go and skate there now are very welcoming, and you know, you see kids rocking up there with helmets and pads and things, and you know, when I was a kid, if you came there with like helmet and pads, you'd be like chased away. But now everyone's totally like accepting of that. Yeah. Very happy to see kids progressing. So that's something that makes me very happy.
Yeah. So it is like March 2022, right? That's the day when I saw an Instagram post about you guys talking about the municipality finally helping out with the skate park.
That was a short-lived thing. That was a short-lived thing, unfortunately. We've managed to finally get someone to like just come and clean. Like we'd had an undertaking from someone in the parks department at the municipality that they would at least clean the bowl once a week.
Yeah.
And that happened once. And now we've reverted back to how it's always been, where we just look after it ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of one of the reasons why I started 1401 was because for quite a long time, 1401 is sort of symbolic of the community that's there, that's always kept the place going. But the scene had sort of died. It was like a lot of older guys who were still skating there, but there was no fresh blood. There was no new kids coming to the lake to skate. And, you know, you've got this opportunity where you've got this like really cool facility that's been there for over 30 years. And it's, I mean, I don't really see anything else that's been around for that long that's still in as good a condition or relatively good condition as the bowl.
Yeah.
So, you know, we've done a few things. When you, again, going back to cleaning it and stuff, like the municipality said they cleaned it once. But I'll give you a backstory to municipality's involvement with the bowl. In 2009, you know, you had the Football World Cup coming in 2010. So the municipality was embarking on this whole cleaning and fixing and whatever campaign they were doing. And the one day I pitched up to skate and I saw that they'd, you know, bulldozers and it's like sand and whatever, and they wanted to fill the bowl in because they couldn't understand what this empty swimming pool was in the middle of like Germiston Lake.
They didn't understand.
What is this thing? You know, why is no one using it? So I had to have many meetings with the municipality and go and like show them videos and be like, no, look, we've had pros here, we've had people from America, from the States, from Europe, from South America coming and skating this thing, and eventually they just kind of agreed to leave it alone.
Yeah.
Which is great. I mean, you know, the less you have, less involvement you have from the municipality and government, like trying to fix things that they know nothing about, the better it is for us. So we've done a few things over the years. Like last year or the year before, we had a few T-shirts made. We sold those because we'd raised funds to fix, in the actual bowl itself, the concrete had started to wear away from water erosion. Because the drain doesn't empty. There's a lot of like roots and stuff from trees growing through the drain. And so we'd raised funds through the sale of some T-shirts we'd made, and we got a generator and some grinding discs, and we actually smoothed out the bottom part of the bowl so you can actually skate it again, so it's pretty skatable. The next mission we have, actually, we've made a whole new batch of shirts. I'm going to be cheeky here and say we've got some shirts for $150,
Oh, yeah.
limited amount, you know. But it all goes
It's
to a
not
good
bad.
cause.
It's not bad at all. Buy the
because
t-shirts.
buy the t-shirts because we've got a good, you know, it's a good cause. We're going to put in a rail. We had a test rail that we'd made and we'd sort of bolted to the
Or
side
is it
of
going to
the.
be like in the...
So it'll be a curved rail on the outside of the snake run, so you can hit it from both sides, whether you're regular or goofy.
Yeah.
So we want to do like a 6-meter curved rail and then do a slab on the other side of it to roll away from it.
Cool.
So yeah, I mean, you know, we take a lot of inspiration from what we see around us. I've seen a lot of like other scenes that have done some DIY stuff themselves and had things going.
Yeah.
And they've done that on very like minimal money.
Yeah, I see
having
Red
done
Bull
that.
helps around as well.
Yeah, so like where we can, and Red Bull, if you're listening, we'd like some of your help. But yeah, so like we're, you know, but mostly it's just us, you know, we have a vision. And I think coming maybe back to what you were saying about selling out or that gatekeepery corporate stuff, like as much as you can do yourself is better because then you're not beholden to other people. You don't have someone telling you, you don't have the dictates of someone saying to you, you can and can't do this and you should do that or you should. No, you just, you know, you do what you do because you see what's needed, you see the need for it, and you put in what you see the community wants. So we had a test run where we actually put a rail in, and the kids were loving it. Like everyone was skating that rail, and we took it out because I saw the guys were trying to steal it. So that's, you know, scrap metal's a thing. So what we want to do now with this run is actually do it properly, where we build the rail in, we cement it into the ground, we have a nice bit of concrete runaway on the other side of it, nice and flat. And over time, that's the sort of vision, is to do more DIY stuff there. We want to ultimately, we want to throw a slab to cover up a large part of the grass area. And as time goes by, maybe do some ledges, some rails, slappy curbs, whatever, you know, is affordable within reason. So yeah, so I think that's the sort of long-term goal with it. And look, I mean, 1401, I may have started it, but I have to, you know, take my hat off to like the people that go there and skate, because everyone has bought into the idea and everyone that goes there contributes in their own way. You know, everyone's like got some vested interest, whether it's a guy who can weld or it's a guy who just has an idea for something.
There's always
someone, you know, so I have to, like, as much as I started it, maybe it was just the spark, but the fire of it is bigger than me. It's sort of everyone that goes there and has bought into the idea.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. So where else do you see then the skate park going? Do you think you would ever?
Well, what I'd like to do is, like, ultimately, you know, I think it's, again, at the moment, you know, you've got a lot of, if you look at the Cape Town scene, you've got a lot of municipal built parks that can accommodate, and I'm thinking, and this is maybe a bit of a bed bug of mine, or something that I don't, that's like rubs a little bit against my own ethos, is that, you know, skateboarding's now become an Olympic sport. And as a sort of person who's always just, you know, enjoyed skateboarding for the sake of skateboarding, I don't really see how skateboarding can be an Olympic sport.
Yeah.
But I'm also getting older, and I don't have the same, I don't know, my vision of skateboarding is not the same as what maybe a 15-year-old kid's vision of skateboarding is. So maybe if that's where skateboarding is going, then why not? You know, who am I to be a gatekeeper? I'm you know, giving shade to gatekeepers and stuff, but I can't become one of those myself. So if that's where it's going, you need to have a facility that is accessible to kids to just like nurture that talent. And I think if we can get the bowl to have more stuff, like I said, pouring a slab, you know, Ekurhuleni doesn't have a big, it doesn't have a huge amount of skate parks. You know, you look at Joburg, you've got privately built parks, you've got a few DIYs. We don't really have much in that sense. So if we can take what we have and build on it, you've got a population of, okay, look, that's the entire population, but you've got a population of 3 million people that live in Ekurhuleni. You know, there's a lot of kids out there that could spend a lot of productive time at a place like the Bulk if you could just get it right. If you could get it to where it needs to be, you never know, like the next like talent could be coming from Vosloorus or Katlehong. You know, you don't know. But if you put something there, you build it, kids will skate it, and that's how you'll see the progress.
So speaking about the municipality built skate parks, would you then have to register as an NGO to get
so
to
I've
that?
had a discussion with I think it's Roller Sport SA, and they are sort of the sort of on wheels association that's affiliated to SASCOC. So going through them, it just makes it a lot easier.
So
if
for
you register
people who
a
don't
club.
know what SASCOC is,
So SASCOC is the Olympic Organizing Committee. So they're the guys who are like the governing body of all sports codes in South Africa.
Okay.
And I suppose the logic then follows that if you register or you or become a club, in inverted commas, a recognized club that's affiliated with Roller Sport SA.
Oh yes, I remember. It's not skateboarding alone.
Yeah,
It's
they've
under
got
roller
like other
skating,
wheels.
but
That's what I said in
yeah,
general, like
in
wheels.
generals,
Anything on wheels. So, you become affiliated to them. Ultimately, as time goes by, you can then go to the municipality and say, "Oh, look, well, I'm actually this club in inverted commas is registered to an affiliated body or in a body that's affiliated to a bigger thing, which is the Olympic Organizing Committee." It just makes it easier for them to understand who you are, because there's a whole lot of bureaucratic stuff that would need to go behind that. Where do they do that? I mean, the bowl itself is in Germiston Lake, which is a park. So how do you then zone a section of land off to say this is specifically land for the skate park and it doesn't fall into the bigger part of Germiston Lake itself? So I think it just makes it easier to form a club of sorts. I mean, it doesn't have to be a club in the sense of, you got to go and train every day, and I need kids to do like 10 push-ups and like run laps around the bowl 50 times and then say, okay, we've done training. It can be a club, it can be a recreational club. But as long as you're registered on paper, you have something that is sort of legitimate, that you can go to the municipality and say, we are someone. It's not just me who's like come up with an idea out of nowhere. This is an actual thing. And I think that's the next step forward. So we're in the process of exploring that, because I do think that there is a lot of potential out there. It just needs to be tapped into. And I think if you start doing that, you're going to see a lot of good stuff coming out of that sort of area.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know that there's a park at Alex actually that is also like going through some issues, and a few homies of mine were texting us about like they were having a few meetings about, I don't know, sort of raising funds for that. So like what kind of advice would you give to people who are trying to...
So I think like the first thing is, unfortunately you live in a country where things work very slow, whatever reason that may be. It could just be the system. But there's a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of layers to the bureaucratic cake that you need to cut through in order to get to the point where you can say, oh, okay, this is me. So I think advice that I would give to the guys in Alex is, like I said, maybe become a formalized club, whether it's an NGO. And I think in terms of Alex, maybe it would be a good idea to get to register as an NGO. Because if you register as an NGO, you're in a better space to raise funds. And if you can raise funds, then you can start relying a lot more on yourself. Then it's a matter of saying to the municipality, okay, this is who we are, just for noting. We don't want anything from you, because I think that's the other thing is, municipalities, government, provincially, nationally, they don't have extra money to pay for things like skate parks and build these things. So unfortunately, it's not ideal, but unfortunately a lot of this is going to have to come out of sponsorship or raising funds or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So I think if you register as an NGO, you've got more chance of being able to go to corporates and say, okay, look, this is our project. If you've got a project plan and you've got a vision and you say, this is the existing facility, this is what we wanted to do, let's say XYZ company, could you come on board with funds, or how can you help? Maybe it's not funds, maybe you could sponsor concrete, or maybe you could sponsor metal for rails or whatever. But I think if you do register as an NGO, that's a step in the right direction to be able to be a legitimate someone, in inverted commas, that you can approach a business and say, this is who we are, or even the municipality and say, this is who we are, this is what this space does, just let us look after it,
So what are some of the challenges you have faced in that journey?
So the biggest problem I found is a lack of interest, quite frankly, from the municipality. I had a meeting with people from the parks department and sport, because it's a sort of crossover, because it's sport, but it's in a park, so you have to have both entities come and
together.
And quite frankly, people were, they're like, this is nice. What's skateboarding? It's like you're a big ugly man playing on a toy. Like that's cool. Thanks for coming. Thanks. So that's why you've taken a lot of this where it's like, okay, cool. We're just going to carry on anyway. Yeah. We keep you guys in the loop. We'll let you know this is what we're going to do. If we're going to have a comp or whatever, like a big comp, just for noting, tick the box, say, okay, cool. At least you were informed. But a lot of it, we're going to have to just do this ourselves. So I think a lot of this is if you find that one favorable person. So if you can approach a municipality and you just find that one person who kind of gets what it is you're trying to do, and is willing to come along with you on the journey, that helps a lot. But other than that, a lot of it is just like, you're going to have to understand that a lot of this is going to have to be self-reliant. You're going to have to do this yourselves, because you're not going to have people come with you from the municipality. And I think that's the biggest. And I think it's also just maybe trying to get the bigger sort of like mindset of what skateboarding can do. You know, I mean, I'm talking not just Olympics here. I'm just like, what does skateboarding mean for communities? You know, everyone listening to the skateboard, so you know yourselves where you come from, what your skate community's like, that sense of camaraderie you have amongst yourselves. What it does, it creates friendships, it builds relationships with people that last for many years, you know. So I think if you can find someone that can see that big picture, and if you can get that big picture across to people, that's going to help you a lot in getting what it is you want off the ground.
Yeah, most definitely. And then, so compared to the skateboarding scene, as you said, when you were growing up, how do you have, or what are some of the biggest changes you've noticed?
Like I said, I think one of the things is, I think growing up, skateboarding is a little bit more harder. I think the attitude of skateboarding, because skateboarding was seen as an outsider thing. If someone saw you skateboarding, they're like, "Oh, look, here comes a drug addict. It's gonna be a no gooder. Like, this kid's gonna go nowhere, jumping up and down on a stupid piece of wood." Like, you know. And I think in that sense, it was a lot harder to be accepted by society and to just continue to skateboard and do what you do. But I think, having said that, a lot of that made it, like, if you stuck it out and you carried on skateboarding, it made skateboarding that much more worthwhile. Like, there was no YouTube or Instagram or TikToks or anything to like take videos. Like, if you were going to go skate and eat shit, you were going to go skate and eat shit. Like, you were going to do this. You were all in. Like, it wasn't like, I'm doing this because I need to make it real, and I don't need to like do this because I want to get, you know, my little dopamine hit from like all the likes I'm going to get on Instagram. And I'm guilty. I make Instagram reels of myself. I won't lie. Like, social media has bit me too, and it's like, it's fun to make reels, but you know, that's because I've been doing it for so long. I think for a kid today, if you're doing it, I think the biggest thing is like, a lot of what skateboarding is lost on kids today. I think a lot of why you're doing it is lost. Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, you can go out and have fun and do whatever, but if you're constantly doing it because it's to get likes, it's to get sponsorships, it's to be, you want your 15 minutes of fame. If you're doing it for those reasons, I think that's the wrong reason to do it. You know, like, a lot of people say to me, "Oh,
just for argument's sake, why would you say it's not advisable to go that direction?"
Oh no, I think if you want to, that's fine. Like, that's your business. You do it. But I think, like, if you really want to skateboard, you're going to do it not because of that. You're doing it in spite of that. You're doing it because you wanted to do it. You know, like, I said to someone once when they were saying about, like, "Oh, you know, all these kids getting sponsored and this and that." And if you pick up a skateboard and all you can ever do is literally roll down a road, and that's your skateboarding journey, and that makes you happy, then to me, that makes me believe that you're enjoying skateboarding more than the guy who's going and doing, like, you know, backside, like, flip, lip slide on a handrail down 20 stairs because you wanted it for that clip for Instagram.
See, that's how he hurts his foot.
He wanted that Instagram fame.
He wanted that fame.
He wanted that Instagram fame, you know. It's like, so I think that's it, you know. Like, I think it's like, what are you doing it for? And there's no right or wrong reason to do skateboarding. Like, if you want to skateboard, you skateboard. But I think ultimately, like, I can guarantee the kid that's having fun pushing the board up and down the road and he's just getting joy from rolling is going to probably skateboard longer than the kid who's doing it because he wants a TikTok reel.
Yeah.
You know? And I think the difference, like, I think what is nice though about skateboarding now is, like I said earlier, you know, it's a lot more accessible. A lot of, I like the community that you have amongst kids today, like, where everyone's really accepting and really, like, if you're a little bit weird and you're not like as good as the guy who's normally there, like, they're still going to come in and be like, yeah, come skate. Like, I think of my time growing up at the lake, like, there were a lot of gatekeepers there, like, a lot of guys who were like, if you were not at a certain level, it's like, you don't bother coming here, don't skate, like, don't skate in front of us, like, you'll have to go and sit down, wait your turn, wait till they've gone away, so you can, like, inverted commas, embarrass yourself because you're not skating as well as they are. So I think, you know, the acceptance among skateboarding today is a lot greater. And I think that's something that you can take away from skateboarding today that adds value. Yeah.
So, speaking of the Olympics, have you ever like had interest in the skateboarding Olympics? Have you ever paid attention to it?
No. I'll be very honest with you. No, like, I mean, it's cool, but like, I don't really know how you. I don't know how you rate
I
that.
heard
Like, how do
you
you like? How do
mention
you
that.
like? How do you judge? Because for me, a lot of like, and maybe it's just because I come from a different generation of skateboarding. To me, I don't care if you can do one thing, but if you can do that one thing and you can do that thing with style, that to me takes away the guy that can do 50 more things but has got no style.
Yeah.
Like, style's a big thing for me. Like, if you don't have style, then you might as well sit down.
Yeah.
You know, so like, I don't know how you can take something, like, how do you as a person, if you've listened to the commentary, because I've listened to some of the commentary of like the Olympics, that people don't know what half the tricks are.
Yeah.
And so like, but how are you going to justify and say like, okay, that trick is way harder than that trick if you have no frame of reference for what that is? If you've never stood on a skateboard yourself and you've done it, how are you going to be able to tell me that that gets more points than something else? And maybe one thing is just, and again, it comes down to preference, because like, if you see a guy do something huge and gnarly and it's like, wow, that's insane, and then you see a guy doing something very technical that's on something small, like maybe something on a ledge, like a slappy, but very technical slappy, how do you tell which is better? Because in their own way, those two things are very different and they have very different sort of abilities to get there, but you can't say which one of those two is better.
So my perspective of it was, don't they judge it the same way they do with the X Games or like SLS?
Well, I don't know, because I mean, again, like I'm maybe a bit of an anomaly. I don't really follow those things. Like we were actually on the way here, we were talking in the car and I was saying about magazines, for example. And, you know, like I loved magazines growing up as a kid because we didn't have YouTube. You didn't have Instagram. You didn't have ways to access this stuff. You'd wait for like a VHS to come out. You know, I remember we had this, myself, William and this other dude, Carl, that we skated with. He was the filmer. He was our cameraman. Carl was cameraman, and William was like the star because William could do all the stuff, and I was just like there. And but like Friday nights religiously we would have a VHS, and I remember the one that we literally watched till the real snap was Flip Sorry. You know, you'd go home and you'd be like, okay, we're going to put this Flip Sorry on, and you sit there, load it up into the VHS player, and you'd watch Flip Sorry until the reels literally snapped. But we go out and we try that. So you lived in this very insular bubble where you only were exposed to certain things, and then magazines were a big thing, but it's all stills, so you don't actually see the guy doing the trick. You see the guy in the trick, but you got to go away and figure out, well, actually, how did he get to that point? You didn't have any frame of reference. So like, you didn't have like YouTube skateboards today that can give you all these tricks. Or if you put your foot like at the sort of in the tail in the pocket, you know, like you've got your foot diagonally towards the back bolt, and you do it gives you extra whatever. Like, you didn't have that. You just go figure that shit out. It's like, I'm not knocking anything because people do what they need to do and whatever, but it's like a lot of these skate schools that I see as well. The best way to learn skate is go skate with your friends. Buy a skateboard or get a skateboard. Go skate with your friends. I don't knock it. Like, people can do it. Like, I have no, and this is not me calling out anyone for doing it.
I get you though. I do.
But like, if you want to learn skateboard, go and do it with your friends. Pick up a skateboard. If you saw that thing and that thing interested you and you were like, yeah, that thing looks cool, like I want to do that, you got to go and put in the hard work. Like, you got to get the grazed knees, the twisted ankles, the sprained wrists. Like, you just got to go figure it out. And like, and that I think is a lot of what's lacking today, is like that. We live in a society where things easy come, easy go, instant gratification. Like, no one wants to do the hard work to like go and actually trial and error. Like, keep going. Am I gonna like eventually get that ollie? Am I gonna get that kickflip? It's gonna take me ages and ages. I'm gonna keep rolling my ankle. I'm gonna keep mob flipping, and I'm gonna keep landing primo, and I'm gonna.
And you're gonna keep telling the cameraman one last time.
Well, no, because there'll be no cameraman
at that time.
There's no cameraman, but you're gonna just like, you know. But are you gonna keep doing that for the sake of doing it? And not just give up because, this is hard, or it's too much and I need someone to teach me how to do this. No, just go and figure it out, you know? So, yeah, I think like, if you're going to skate, you just got to keep doing it because you love it.
Yeah. You know? So basically you guys walk so we could run, basically.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like there's and I think a lot of things like going and there's a lot of like the scene here in Joburg, which is really cool, is a lot of street skating. You don't really see that elsewhere because there's just a lack of facilities. Like, a lot of guys going and hitting the streets and finding spots. I mean, I grew up skating transition at the lake, but if we went skate street, that's to me what you would go and skate. You go look for spots. You go find stairs, ledges, just odd stuff. Like, you know, I think that's the beauty of skateboarding, is that like you've got to really have a creative mind to go and walk down the street and maybe see something that someone
and
else
you see
looks
the world
at
so
and
much
you,
differently.
and you see that thing and you're like,
skater.
I could actually
I
maybe
could
do something on that.
Yeah, true.
Like I haven't quite figured it out yet, but I'm going to go try and figure that thing out. Whereas if you go to like a purpose-built park, it's like it's all just sitting there and it's a bit like sort of, okay, here's a rail, here's a ledge, here's the stairs.
Yeah.
If you're going and cruising the streets and you find that bank that's a bit crusty or like some ledge that maybe needs a little bit of extra love to get it to skate, like that's the best thing about skateboarding. It's just it opens your mind up. It allows you to go out and roam. And I think, again, not knocking it, but back to, when we were younger, it's like you had to go and find things to skate, and your imagination could just go crazy. You could just go cruising the streets, finding things, and to me, that's the best way of skateboarding. It's just go finding things and just like opening your mind up and trying stuff that maybe, average Joe might walk past that and just be like, okay, that's something in the street, but like I see it differently. I can maybe I can do a slappy on that thing, or I can whatever it is, no slide or just something.
What are some of the nicest places you've skated at?
Germiston Lake. Everyone must go to Germiston Lake and skate Germiston Bowl. Like that is the best place to learn to skate. Honestly, it is. Like if you want to skate transition, it's a good place to start. But like we used to cruise around and skate a lot of stuff. I think one of the best places we ever skated was so William got sponsored by Psycho Skateboards, and for anyone who's too young to not know what that is, Psycho were a fiberglass board. They were like some guy was going to like reinvent the wheel and create these fiberglass indestructible boards, and Will got sponsored by these things. So we went down to do a tour to George. There was a skate park in George, and it was honestly one of the nicest parks we've ever skated. It was called Skate Lab, run by a guy by the name of Mr. Miller. I still sometimes keep in touch with him. Really nice guy. Really, really kept that scene down there going. But that park was honestly one of the like
George. Where is George?
George's in the Western Cape.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's a coastal town. Honestly, that park was so much fun, and the people there were nice. Like George has got a lot of hidden gems, like skate spots themselves. Yeah. So that was probably one of the raddest places we'd ever skated was Skate Lab. There was a place in Edenvale back in the day called Fly Station. That was also, if you were skating parks, like Fly Station was a pretty fun spot to skate. And then just cruising the spot. Fly Station closed down. I think the guys who had Fly Station, I could be speaking under correction, but eventually they were the guys that started Revolution. And eventually more, because there was 1610 distribution, which came out of Edenvale, and that sort of morphed into what later I think, again, I could be speaking under correction, became Revolution. And then obviously Revolution started up and they had a few parks, they had a few spots that I think they took over from Boogaloo's. So, but I think honestly, like some of the best times we had was just cruising the streets. Yeah. One of our favorite local in inverted commas spots was in Alberton. It was a park called Frontside. Mm-hmm. It was just a nothing. It was like it was like a stadium like stand with a bit of like flat ground, and some guys had built a few ledges and a fun box and this little square bowl and a stage. That was fun. That was honestly like going to Frontside was cool. And then later on, there was another park that was built in Alberton called Unity, which was an indoor wooden park, and that was really cool. But that also didn't last very long because, like I said, a lot of this like skateboarding got big, and then the bottom fell out of it. And
like a lot of indoor parks closed.
A lot of like that's the thing. I think today now skateboarding isn't going to go through that same dip that it did. It may quieten down a bit, but it's never going to go away. Like there were a lot of periods throughout my skateboarding career where skateboarding just like died. It like if you were still skateboarding, it was incredibly difficult for you to get stuff like shoes, boards, because like the suppliers would disappear, and then a lot of the scene moved down to the Cape, to Cape Town specifically. Yeah. So Joburg or up here, and then I mean if it's bad here, I don't want to know what it's like in other provinces, but it became a bit of a sort of like a ghost town to try and find product. So there were a few people hustling and keeping it going and getting product here, but there were times where skateboarding became almost inaccessible because of the lack of stuff that was just available. I think that's like a lot of those parks died around about that time.
It's crazy, but I guess it's the evolution of skateboarding anyway.
No, it is, and I think I think things have to go through those changes to ultimately become what they become, and it never stops changing. Skateboarding today, I mean, I see a lot of skateboarding today, and I just look at stuff and it doesn't make sense to me. Like the technicality of it and stuff, like I just look at it. This is. I think a lot of it's like it comes from that Tony Hawk PlayStation sort of era where kids would play this thing as little kids growing up on like the TV. They played it like as a game, and they just think, okay, well that's doable because like that can be done if it can be done in the game. Yeah, that can be done in real life. And I think a lot of where you see skateboarding today is an evolution of that. The kids have taken that stuff and they've just gone to the streets thinking it can just because it exists in a game, it can be done on the street, and then they do make it exist on the street, and it's. You know, like it's insane. Like the stuff I see today is just like you don't know where skateboarding can go to next from here because it just literally gets more technical, more advanced, and it blows my mind. But I suppose that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of skateboarding. It's just seeing how it evolves and just how it sort of, as time goes by, you just like you think you've hit the glass ceiling, and then someone comes and smashes straight through that and takes it to the next level.
Yeah. And then, do you have any favorite skaters from your time?
Your time. My time, not that old.
but like, but when you're growing up,
no, I think like growing up, a lot of like people that I sort of looked up to, or like that I sort of in my mind were like, wow, that's who I want to be. Is like from like more bowl and pool skating, it was like people like Lance Mountain, you know. And I think for me, it wasn't just the skating, it was the personality of that person and the style of that person. Yeah. So like Lance Mountain was a big thing for me. I think that dude's like a very undersold skater. But then also like a lot of street, Jeff Rowley for me was one of the gnarliest guys growing up, like watching Jeff Rowley skate. Just the slams that guy would take, just like eat shit and just kick it up and just go. And it was big. It was never like really technical, but it was just big and burly and hard. Tom Penny. Always Tom Penny for style. Like there's no one that's gonna like outdo Tom Penny for style. Heath Kirchhardt's another guy. He also like, I think Heath Kirchhardt probably had one of the nicest kickflips you've ever seen in your life. There's a YouTube clip somewhere, I'll find it and I'll send it to you. It's downtown San Francisco where he flips over a fire hydrant. It's just honestly like the most beautiful kickflip you'll ever see in your life. Like a lot of those a lot of the girl skaters, the brand girl, a lot of those skaters like Rick McCrank, Mike Carroll, like a lot of those guys just style, dude, just so much style. Yeah. Really, really a lot of like nice skating coming out those sort of like late 90s, early 2000s.
Dope. I see you wearing that shirt as well. So do you help around at the 1401 Skatepark? Did you buy merch?
I mean, I try to help out as much as I can. The first place I started skating was the Bowl. I live really close to it. And the locals there at the time told me how to drop in. They taught me how to kickflip. And sort of where my love for that started. And I sort of disappeared for a while from the Bowl. I started skating street mostly. Yeah. And then recently, now that I've like gotten older and I want to chill more, I started trying to skate bowl again. So I'm back now at the Bowl and trying to
Are you back? Oh, well, you're not back.
Yeah, I mean, the last couple of years I've been trying to skate as much bowl as I can.
Alright, nice to meet you, bro. Warren, is there anything else that you want to say?
I just want to say thanks for having me on here. It's always a nice opportunity, and I know this is probably not going to be like the blockbuster podcast episode.
No, it's definitely going
the fact that you are like trying. I appreciate you having me here, because what you do is what, in my mind, is what we're trying to do. Is you're trying. You're working towards an objective to get somewhere, to get this thing going. And I think you found a very niche space to be in, because there isn't really anything like this out there at the moment. Yeah. So I'm super stoked to be here and to be part of what you're doing. And likewise, I'm just very grateful for the opportunity to be able to come here and tell guys about the Bowl. Like, please, everyone, come and skate Germiston Lake. It's there. It's free. You don't have to pay. Like, just have a good time. Like, everyone's really, warm and welcoming, and it's a nice spot. And like, early in the new year, we'd like to have a proper comp there, big comp. So when we finalize details of that, we've had a few comps there, but we'd like to have a big comp there. And, so if we could get as many people to come through and actually have a go at it and learn to skate ball, guys. Come skate ball.
Was it 2 weeks ago you had a comp with?
We had the longest grind. Right? We had the longest grind and a fastest snake run, which is always fun. It's about fun. I'm not really a big fan of comps themselves. Where it gets very like competitive and edgy, and to me it's just about having fun. So like a comp is, a comp for me is like by way of giving you a prize for having fun.
Get together.
You know, like it's more about getting together, everyone having a good time and enjoying themselves. You know, like I think when you're not enjoying yourself, that's when you're not doing it for the right reasons. And it's the same with comps. If you're not enjoying this and you're not having fun, then yeah, you're not really skating if you're not having fun.
Yeah. Can you plug the location of the Germiston Lake? Do you know
Yeah, I will send you the pin, but what I'll tell you is it is Germiston Lake. If you go into Google Maps, it is on Rand Airport Road.
Yes.
Rand Airport. It's just literally Rand Airport Road. It's next to Germiston High. If you can find Germiston High School, the entrance is right next to Germiston High School.
Cool.
Yeah, and then you just drive in and boom, as you park, it's right in front of you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We hope to see you next time.
Socials 40. It's just we just only have the Instagram account, which is 1401 Skate.
Yeah.
It's at 1401 and then SK8.
Perfect. We got it. Thank you so much for tuning into Skatribution. We hope to get you for a part 2 in the near future. Who knows? Please keep subscribing, liking, and shout out to 1 year, man. Yeah, we out of here. Boom.